There's breaking news coming in right now that there's an airplane on the tarmac in Texas with migrants on it that is aiming to fly these migrants to the country of Libya in Africa. Immigration lawyers are scrambling to figure out if their clients are on this airplane, and lawyers are filing lawsuits in federal court to stop this airplane from leaving by taking the migrants to a country where they're not from. A federal judge has basically put a pause on this for now.
It is not just El Salvador. Reporting shows the Trump administration has been actively trying to find multiple nations to take third country immigrants it wants to deport. And it appears the administration is leaning on nations locked in conflict. The Washington Post reviewed documents in which the White House urged Ukraine to take deportees. And NBC News reports the U.S. is planning to send a group of migrants to Libya as early as this week, according to two U.S. officials. Rwanda could also accept deportees. Its foreign minister announced on state TV that the government is in early talks with the White House. Both Rwanda and Libya have abysmal human rights records. In fact, last year, the U.S. State Department criticized Libya's harsh and life-threatening prison conditions. Their words. Joining us now, NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Kuby. Walk us through your reporting on Libya.
Yeah, so according to these officials, the U.S. could send at least one aircraft with migrants to Libya as early as this week. Now, it would be a U.S. military aircraft. What's unclear, though, at this point, Katie, is what nationality these individuals would be. Now, according to the Trump administration, that's the Department of Homeland Security and the State Department, they're not saying anything about this. The State Department saying that they're not going to discuss conversations that they have with allies or other nations. But the provisional government in Libya is speaking about this, saying in a statement that they do not have any kind of an agreement with the United States for this. And in one statement, even saying that sending migrants there would violate their sovereignty. But again, these officials telling us this could happen as early as this week. And as you mentioned, Katie, this would not be new to the Trump administration, who has already struck a deal with El Salvador to send members of two different gangs to El Salvador, a $6 million deal. In fact, to do that, the U.S. has already sent migrants there. And there are other nations now, with Marco Rubio saying that they are reaching out to other countries to potentially take migrants who he has described as the worst of the worst, Katie.
And we should also note that so far they have not offered evidence to prove that anybody is the worst of the worst. There's been no due process for the migrants that have been flown out of this country, the ones to El Salvador.
They are sending migrants to Libya, and the plane may be leaving as soon as tomorrow, Wednesday. A country known for extremely terrible conditions and absolutely egregious. The type of treatment in their prisons has been condemned by human rights organization. They use electric shocks. They put people in stress positions, which are absolutely horrific. And this is something that the New York Times has confirmed with multiple sources at the Trump administration who are speaking to them on the condition of anonymity, because they are obviously not authorized to share this information. But this comes from all the people at the New York Times who always get this stuff right, like Maggie Haberman. This is a big escalation, and this flight will be leaving as soon as tomorrow. Hopefully this will not be another situation like with Judge Boasberg, where they will move before there is a chance for the courts to react.
So the United States is now going to be trafficking people to Libya to be imprisoned in a horrific hellscape of migrant detention centers where they will face torture, slavery, and sexual violence against men, women, and children. And the great part is, your taxpayer dollars are going to fund these human rights violations. The children that they're arbitrarily detaining without any legal counsel, some of them are as young as babies and toddlers. Not only are they being held in disgusting conditions without adequate food or clean water, but they also face extortion, abuse, and rape. Oh, and don't you worry, the guards are trafficking the women too. Make no mistake, the blood of the victims of the Trump regime's decision is absolutely 100% on the hands of every single person who still supports this. And yes, I mean you.
You know, the Trump administration has been deporting people to El Salvador without letting them see a judge. Of course, those decisions are being challenged in federal court. So far, the Trump administration is losing badly. And because judges have prohibited the administration from sending people to El Salvador, now they came up with a new plan. Yesterday they said, okay, judge, we'll just send people to Libya. That's right, Libya in North Africa, one of the most lawless, cruelest places on earth. The Trump administration are cutting deals with some of the harshest regimes on earth. They're cutting alliances with England and France and Canada. Instead, they're cozying up to dictators like in Russia and El Salvador, and now Libya. What is wrong with this country? Is this actually what people voted for? Of course, legal challenges will be mounted, but what damage will be wrought in the meantime? How many families ripped apart and how many people scared to death?
The U.S. is preparing military deportation flights, but not just to countries people came from. They're actually considering sending undocumented migrants, some who've lived here for years, to places like Libya. Yes, Libya, a nation torn apart by armed conflict for over a decade. And it's not just Libya. The list includes Rwanda, Benin, Angola, Eswatini, countries with limited resources to support an influx, especially of people who didn't come from there in the first place. And guess who's footing the bill? You are. These are U.S. military flights paid by U.S. tax dollars. When Trump was asked about it, he said, I don't know. You'd have to ask the Secretary of Homeland Security. So we're shipping people to war zones, and nobody knows who's actually in charge. This isn't just immigration policy. It's outsourcing lives.
This is news and information that you should use tonight. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration may deport migrants to Libya. For the first time this week, 3 U.S. officials said on Tuesday, that's today, as part of his administration crackdown and despite Washington's past condemnation of Libya's harsh treatment of detainees. 2 of the officials said the U.S. military could fly the migrants to the North African country as soon as tomorrow, but stressed that plans could still change. The Pentagon referred queries to the White House, State House Department, and Department of Homeland Security. They did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Now, news sources could not determine how many migrants would be sent to Libya or the nationalities of the individuals that the administration is eyeing for deportation. Republican president, who made immigration a major issue during his election campaign, has launched aggressive enforcement action since taking office, surging troops to the southern border and pledging to deport millions of immigrants in the United States illegally.
Breaking news, if you thought El Salvador was bad, Libya could be worse. Donald Trump and the Donald Trump administration is planning on sending a group of migrants to Libya as early as today, Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. The Department of State warns against this because of the civil unrest currently in Libya at the moment. Like El Salvador, Libya could be used to ship migrants to detention centers or jails in these countries. The Donald Trump administration says that this is used as a deterrent to prevent or warn people that if you come here illegally, these are the things that could happen to you. Even if you're not from Libya, you could be sent to Libya.
Could you imagine if Trump and his people put as much energy as they do into deporting people without due process into something productive like curing cancer or solving world hunger or solving hunger here in America? They would be so productive because the shit that they're trying to do is just, it's creative. I'll give them that. But luckily there are attorneys who are quick. Today, there was an emergency temporary restraining order that was filed in the DVD versus Department of Homeland Security case to try and stop Trump's imminent deportation flights to Libya for the same reasons why his flights failed to El Salvador. They're super unconstitutional. By way of reminder, the DVD case is another case that was filed in response to Trump's deportation efforts. Specifically, this case challenges the Department of Homeland Security, a new procedure to deport people to a third random country, a country that they did not come from, that they are not a citizen of, when deporting people from the United States. And they're doing it without due process, of course. Back on April 18th, the court in this case issued a preliminary injunction basically stating that the United States cannot forcibly send someone to a country other than their country of origin without due process, without letting them apply for fear-based stay from removal to that country and other protections. In that order, the court held all 9 sitting justices of the Supreme Court, the Assistant Solicitor General of the United States, Congress, common sense, basic decency, and this court all disagree that Trump can deport someone to a country not of their origin not where an immigration judge has ordered them to be deported to, where they may be immediately tortured and killed without providing that person any opportunity to tell the deporting authorities they face grave danger or death because of such deportation. So this practice was supposed to be stopped. Now, with the reporting that Donald Trump is trying to send these people to Libya, and it's unclear, at least from what I've read, whether he's going to deport into prisons in Libya or just Libya generally. The plaintiffs in the DVD case filed an emergency TRO trying to stop those deportations from happening. Supposedly, they were going to happen as early as today. Before I could even finish editing this video, the court issued an order on plaintiffs' temporary restraining order emergency application, and the court stated that the court agrees with plaintiffs that this motion should not be required as the relief sought is already provided in the preliminary injunction. The April 18th, 2025 preliminary injunction requires all third country removals to be preceded by written notice to both the non-citizen and the non-citizen's counsel in a language that they can understand, as well as a meaningful opportunity for them to raise a fear-based claim for cat protection. The court finishes, if there is any doubt and the court sees none, the allegedly imminent removals, as reported by news agencies and as plaintiffs seek to corroborate with class member accounts and public information, would clearly violate this court's order. So they put him on notice, hey, don't do this. There's an injunction against it. So hopefully the government and Trump will comply with this order and not remove any individuals to Libya or anywhere else. We'll see. I'll keep you updated as this case continues.
So nowadays, every time I read something in the news, I'm like, how is this legal? And so I decided to just start a Is It Legal series. And today we're going to be talking about the newest story. Can Trump deport non-citizens to Libya, Saudi Arabia, and any other countries in between? Libya is known for its human rights abuses, unlawful detentions, you name it. And so a judge in Massachusetts decided and held that, yes, this is illegal. Non-citizens cannot just be shipped off to random countries without being given an opportunity to be heard as to why they can be tortured or harmed in this country, have a reasonable fear screening test, and also have 15 days to file a motion to reopen if that decision is unfavorable. And this case is just another instance that this administration is not getting the point. Yes, due process exists, and yes, the courts are going to support due process.
This is absolutely horrific, and Trump should be impeached over it. Details have just emerged from the Trump administration that he had a plan to deport immigrants from the Philippines, Vietnam, Cambodia, and even Mexico to Libya, a country still recovering from civil war and a nation that literally has an open slave market that detained immigrants oftentimes end up getting sold into. But that's not even it. When these immigrants refuse to agree to deportation to the country that they've never been to before in their lives, ICE handcuffed them and placed them into solitary confinement. Is this the America that you really want?
Libya? I will be getting back to tariffs and the economy very soon, but I am crashing out over this. They want to deport immigrants. They want to disappear immigrants to Libya. Yeah, El Salvador is bad. At least it's the same, continent, hemisphere as their original home. The United States government, the Trump administration, wants to deport immigrants to Africa, to Libya. They want to send them a world away to a country that there is no American embassy and currently has a level 4 travel warning to U.S. citizens. There will be no chance to get out. There will be no justice. There will be no due process. And I really hate to be the person that says, no one's talking about this. But I have seen 0 influencers talking about this. The only place that I have heard about this has been through shock NPR podcasts. NPR is out here doing the Lord's work. Follow all of their podcasts. Listen to all of them. They are doing amazing reporting. But Libya? Yeah, cruelty was always the point.
Well, the liberals have done found another thing to cry about. The Trump administration is considering sending migrants with criminal records to Libya and Rwanda And he's been working out a deal with Libya to be considered a safe country to send all of these asylum seekers. And Mexican asylum seekers are throwing a fit across the United States because they claim that they did not walk across that border to be shipped to another country overseas. They came here to work and make a better life for themselves, for God's sake. And Democrats are claiming that it's against their constitutional right that they should be given due process before they are considered to be shipped anywhere out of the United States because we allow them to come here. What do y'all think?